Yeah, so I think the biggest one is the causal relevance of the mental to the physical. Um, so if you look at the kind of historical picture, or at least like a potted history of the historical picture, one that you get here lots, like you start with Descartes, and Descartes has this mind-body dualism, and there's the question of how the two interact, the mind and the physical. And Descartes didn't have a really good answer because, well, part of the issue was the background picture about the way the physical world worked, a very Newtonian picture where transmitting causes to effect requires some kind of contact between the two, and so it wasn't clear how this non-physical thing could come into causal contact with the physical world. That's the I guess is attributed to Princess Elizabeth of Bohemia, who wrote to him on this objection, and he doesn't have a really good answer to that. And so there, I think you'd put that same objection slightly differently, given the way physics has progressed. But it's still an issue, I think, about this causal interaction. And so for me personally, anyway, that was like psychologically the biggest factor in my sort of coming to realize that my sympathies really were on the physicalist side. The thing about cause and effect, like how is it that these mental occurrences, like a seeing and hearing something, can cause me to respond in a certain way. So I just couldn't take epiphenomenalism, and I didn't understand how things could interact from a dualist perspective. So I think that's probably the biggest reason.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, we no longer think that conscious stuff is reaching into the physical world via the pineal gland or by some other part of our brain or so on.
Yeah. But even so, there are still like substance dualists, like that there still are people out there who think that the mind is a kind of non-physical substance. I think Swinburne, maybe someone like that, Richard Swinburne, but there are others too. And if you really, I think about like the link between the physical world and the mental world, we don't really understand what cause and effect is at a real deep. I mean, it's still a philosophical question about what the nature of causation is, and so there are different models that you could have about how this non-physical thing could interact with the physical world. But I think that overall, what gives me skepticism about that picture is that as we study the brain, we don't find any unexplained causal events. So it's never the case, or hasn't been yet at least, that we see some sort of neural activity like neurons firing action potentials or a chemical exchange at a synapse or whatever. And then we can't trace the causal chain back to some physical event which preceded it, or to the environment that the animal is in. So there hasn't, as of yet, been a kind of like neural activity where we go, oh, this would require to explain how it occurred would require postulating some energy source that was outside of the normal physical interactions. And we haven't really seen that. Now, that really depends on the brain being a kind of closed system causally, and it's not clear that it is because it's so complex system. So I think there's wiggle room on both ends of that. But that just seems like a piece of evidence right there that we haven't. There hasn't been a need to postulate the existence of an outside cause. I mean, a non-physical cause. And so then, if that continues, then if consciousness is real, it would have to be epiphenomenal if all the cause and effects are taken care of at the physical level. Which is why, if you think that the mind is the physical, so if they're just identified, then you get the causal power. Why is it that this conscious state has the cause and effects that it does? Well, because it's just a physical state. So that I still think, in my thinking, that's one of the biggest reasons for taking physicalism seriously. And it's been quite some progress in philosophy, I would say, that the kind of panpsychism that's out. Well, I'm not a panpsychist, but at least they've made an attempt to try to address this question from like a panpsychist point of view about how, if the physical properties really just are consciousness in and of themselves, there's an identity at that level, then whatever cause and effect powers the physical properties have is just the cause and effect powers of the bits of consciousness. So at least I think there's been some effort amongst the people who find troubles with physicalism to try to understand this cause and effect issue. and to account for it in their theorizing, rather than just like defending epiphenomenalism, which I mean is something that you can do, but it's a lot less popular nowadays.